make it. We tried to get this in the local paper, but it didn't work out as well as I expected it to, so sorry about that one. So, who's lived in a haunted house before? Anybody? Oh, look at all these people. Who still lives in a haunted house? Alrighty. Well, Essex County Ghost Project was formed in 2008 in November, so we're coming up on our 10-year anniversary next year. Very exciting times. Prior to that, I was with New England Ghost Projects for many years, and prior to that, I was out on my own. I started ghost hunting when I was a kid with a 35mm camera, an old one, from the old film ones. And before that, I had a 110. Who remembers a 110 film? Who's old enough to remember 110? If anyone who doesn't, those were those little, they look like you little roundly things that went into the camera this way. I just saw a 110 camera for sale today at a store somewhere. It was kind of funny, bringing back memories. And a tape recorder. Who remembers a cassette recorder? That's what I started with. Now we've grown into this, and this is only a very small portion of my paranormal equipment. I have cameras galore. We have enough setups to do small homes, private homes, and I now have enough setups to do a full former mental institution of a hospital using old cameras. So that's what it's grown into. Now, a little more about me before we get started about the house. Everybody knows I also run a cemetery. So hence some of the photographs we'll get into a little later of Hilldale Cemetery in Haverhill. Some of the cleanup work and some of the stuff that we do. When Essex County was formed, I always worked with nonprofits. I've served on many boards in my life. So the first thing I wanted to do besides help homeowners out was help nonprofits raise money. We've raised over $30,000 in almost 10 years.
Awesome.
So that's pretty good for that type of work that we do. And we don't take a dime for it. And everything in here is either bought by myself or my team members. So whatever we do raise at these events, stay with the event the group we're raising for. So, how do you know if your house is haunted? Well, just because the bottle of water moves from here to over here doesn't mean your house is haunted. The keys can move too. Or if you heard the creaky floors in your old 1743 house, that doesn't mean your house is haunted either. So, what makes a haunt? Well, sometimes renovations can start up. If you lived in a house that was fine, these are my favorite ones. I bought this house and it was great, and we decided to rip up the bathroom and, I want to put in new basement flooring, so we decided to cement over the basement flooring. All of a sudden, the spirit activity kicks up. It probably kicked up because during renovation time, you move something, you upset the apple cart, upset the nature of what's in the house. And that can happen. We get a lot of those calls. What can cause haunting before we get into them? Well, a lot of things can cause haunting. Who lives in a brand new house? Anybody? I guess y'all live in old homes. Good. If you live in a new house, does that mean you don't want to move into that trailer park? Because after they realized how far the trailer park went, they buried over an old graveyard. So some of those people living in those trailers are living under the graves with spirits living underneath them. So you never know what's underneath the ground. And we live here where? In New England. What used to roam the New England lands, do we know? Anybody? Native Americans. A lot of Native Americans died and buried. They weren't buried in graveyards. They were buried pretty much on shallow ground and where they landed when they passed away. So you never know what was under the ground before we built the modern day homes or the 100-year-old homes or the 200-year-old homes. Now, who in here likes to collect things? I want to show of hands. Who likes yard sailing?
You do.
Some of this stuff came from yard sales.
Everything came from yard sales.
Pretty much. So, yard sailing, can you bring a spirit home with you?
Yes.
Yes. We were just recently in a house. Let me explain this and then we'll get into it. We're recently in a house in Derry, New Hampshire, 1743. Now, when we go into a house, it's usually for one spirit, maybe two spirits, maybe three, four max. Can anyone guess how many spirits, other than my team, you think we ended up with in this house?
Hundreds.
Anybody? Try hundreds. The house was owned by a former hoarder who left everything behind when the new owners took over. There was one thing we took out of the house. I have a small collection of haunted artifacts. I almost brought them with me tonight, but I'd rather keep them locked up in my safe location. Because if we take them out of the house, there's a reason why we took them out of the house. So we took this nutcracker out of the house. Now, one of the tools we use is a FLIR thermal imager. Okay? And it picks up heat signatures. That's what this does. So if I put my hand on the wall, you won't see the imprint. I put this on, you'll see the heat imprint show up. So this was a metal object. It was not a hot night. We're at this house, and we're picking up a lot of hits with the K2 meter, the Mel meter, which picks up electromagnetic field. We picked the electromagnetic field up on this couch in this house. Come to find out from talking to the owner, they picked up the couch on the side of the road in Florida when they lived in it because they liked that couch, it looked good, so they took it with them. On top of the fireplace is this nutcracker of a squirrel, giving off nothing but a red heat signature. Okay, so I took it with me that night, wrapped it up, salted it away, put some protection around it, left it out in the backyard, behind the garage, till I could move it the next morning to my secret location where I store these items, because I have other items from other cases that I do take from people's homes if they don't want them in the house anymore. It moved from one end, so say that's the end of the garage there, and this is the one end, this is the other end, and then 3 trees, so where my friend Skeletor is the third tree. It moved from that corner to that corner. Now, no animal moved this thing, it's heavy, so it didn't blow in the wind. And it was laying wrapped up in a towel. It looked like the way it moved, something actually picked it up, or it picked up itself and got dropped like it was picked up and put back down over near the tree. So I moved that to my secret location. There was a house in Amesbury there was a Fender guitar that my team didn't even want to drive with me to my secret location. My team members had to actually take other cars with them that night because even my co-founder, who's sitting in the audience, /fiance, didn't even want to drive in the car with this one. That thing was pretty gnarly. Then we had another case in Bradford where someone decided to go to Louisiana for Fat Tuesday week. They picked up some beads off a creepy guy, she told me. The creepy guy was on the plane with her. The creepy guy was in the back seat of her car. The creepy guy ended up in her apartment building in Bradford. So we took those beads, and I have those locked down and isolated safely now. So that's just some of the stuff that I repossessed, the spirit awareness. I picked up, my favorite thing to go to is yard sales and find Ouija boards. Those have plenty of spirit activity to them. I never pick those up. What I do is I slip my card in there, so when people get in trouble, they know who to call. Because if I picked up everything that I pick spirits up and with all the yard selling and all the secondhand storing I go to, I'd have no room for my personal collection of artifacts. I have plenty of room now, I think. All right, so when we go on a case, we get the phone call. Call comes in, we got this going on. I'll give you a prime example. Caller A calls up and goes, "Hi, you Tom? Yep, I'm Tom. How can I help you?" "Well, I got a ghost in my house." "Okay, what's going on?" "The lights are flickering. The keys are being moved. The animals look up in the ceiling and bark at nothing. And the cat stares." lights flicker. We've heard some footsteps on occasion. So I write this all down, and I pick the team who's going to go, and we go. Sometimes when we get there, nothing happens. That's called the Dunkin' Donuts Doritos time. But other times we get there, and well, things are starting to move, and hear footsteps, banging on the walls, doors closing, stuff that the client normally doesn't hear. So we don't even know what we're going into sometimes. Sometimes we think we're going into what I call a creek puff case, just to help the client out and find out if Grandma Jones is still in the house or someone's other grandma, and we get there and we find out, we got the scratching going on, horses, you hear growls. We did a case here in Lawrence. It was a pretty bad case with that scratching and everything else. In fact, it was such a bad case. It attacked one of my team members, and it took me a whole summer with the help of another paranormal team to remove this spirit. Because this was not a friendly spirit. This was one that left marks still on the back of my back and my arms from the grunts and the groans and everything else. And we actually smelled sulfur in the house when we got in there, which we weren't even aware of because the client never told me that she smelled sulfur. Then we get there, it's like, okay, time to call in a demonologist and handle this another way because this wasn't going to get handled on a regular night. Sometimes we go to a house and we find nothing and we have to go back. Sometimes we'll go to a house and we'll find a whole bunch of things and we have to go back a whole bunch of times. But we do that. So let me just get into what some of the hauntings are. A mild haunting can consist of, but not limited to, things such as going missing, odors, smells, very lightly, nothing that's going to run you out of the house like a strong sewer. Sometimes a cigar or flowers or coffee brewing. I worked at a hotel where we did get it was a mild haunting. You could actually nickname the ghost Rose. Now, where'd Rose come from? Well, we don't even know how Rose got there. I worked there years ago, and I went through it with my own small equipment. I didn't have a team at the time. I couldn't figure out who Rose was, EVPs, nothing, but every time the elevator door would open, we would smell a rose-scented perfume. So that's where Rose came from. Or the door would open up front. It was one of those automatic doors, but if nobody's standing there, the door would just open up at 2 in the morning. You'd be sitting there watching TV or talking to the front desk agent, the door just opened up. It was pretty cool. Then you'd smell the smell scented of rose perfume. People know everything. And I almost forgot, too. We have another spirit chaser in the room, Willie Hassel. He's been in the field over 10 years, and he doesn't know everything either. He's still learning. And you're going to hear from Willie at the end, too. Now you get to my favorite. These are the ones that I jump for joy when I get a call on. Demonic hauntings. All right, these are the type of hauntings that are the most potentially harmful and dangerous. They are. Not just potential, they are dangerous. Let's see, demons come. They weren't human. So, when someone dies in a house, their spirit could be left behind. We can usually come up with a name. When we find out when we go into a house and there's some severe stuff going on, and you don't come up with a name, it was never human, which means it was a demonic entity. And those are the ones I like tackling. They can throw you, and I'm not talking about a little toss. I'm talking about down a flight of stairs, or up a flight of stairs. The smells are death, putrid, nasty, growls. We in fact, went to case in North Lawrence, we actually heard growling on our recorders. And they're not nice at all. The other thing they can do, it's not localized, and these types are not the ones you want to play around with. If you have a demonic haunting and you're getting major issues, don't wait. Pick up the phone and call somebody, because those aren't going anywhere. Now, how do we get something like a demonic haunting? Well, it could come in on like that nasty Fender guitar we picked up on Amesbury in a private home. That was a real nasty one. Or the doll that I picked up from another team that's no longer around that took people's clothes off. You know, so that could happen, but guess what's the other way? Who knows what a key is? Oh, I don't have my keys with me. Anyone use keys before?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there's this key that you can use that people play with sometimes. And this is what causes 90% of the problems we deal with in the severe and upper end demonic hauntings. The key is called, my favorite musician just died. My favorite actress died. Let's get together and go play with a Ouija board. How many people have played with Ouija boards before? Oh, okay. Well, you can contact your grandmother with a Ouija board. You can contact your aunt. You can contact James Dean, Marilyn Monroe, Kurt Cobain, Elizabeth Taylor, Michael Jackson. You could even contact Thelma Todd. Thelma Todd was from Warren, so you can contact Thelma Todd. The Thelma Todd historian sitting in the room too. So, but you know what else you can contact? Just about anything else. A Ouija board is used to open up a portal. We use dowsing rods and pendulums that work the same way. I use a reverse thing called glass divination when we do have a severe portal. Glass divination is the British version of a Ouija board that David Wells from England taught me how to do when I was with doing the ghost projects, putting the glass on the table. And in fact, we used to run fundraisers for the Teddy Gatehouse in Methuen before they stopped the fundraising. Mrs. Teddy would come out and talk to Joe all the time. It was quite the conversation, Mrs. Teddy was. But Ouija boards. What happens with a Ouija board is you open up a portal to the other side. And just because you stop playing with the Ouija board, if you don't know how to close the portal, it's like leaving the door open in the wintertime. And you got the heat on in the house. What happens to your heating bill? Goes through the roof. Well, that's what happens with a Ouija board. You open up that portal and it stays open. Unless you shut it, Grandma may come through, James Dean, Thelma Todd, Marilyn Monroe, they may all come through to say hi to you. But lurking around the corner is going to be something that's ugly, nasty, and could hurt you that may come in, and they mask themselves as Grammy, Thelma Todd, James Dean. And they come in and they can cause some severe problems. So, Ouija boards, dowsing rods, and pendulums, if you don't know what you're doing, leave them up to people that know what they're doing. Just out of curiosity, whoever used a Ouija board, you don't have to, if you want to raise your hand, answer the question, but you don't have to. Did you ever have anything happen to you? Did you get a response from it?
I wouldn't know, I never touched one. What the whole thing was still.
Anyone here use one to get responses? I'm just curious. You don't have to say it. If you want to tell me afterwards, you can. You're more than welcome to. If not, no big deal.
Well, a friend of mine used us and has gotten responses, and I'm not of the happy kind. Yes.
Yeah. All too often that happens. So, what do? Well, when we go on a case, except for, and I have to admit this because some of my team members are here, we put a protection bubble around us except for me. Now, why is that? For some reason, demonic entities have never bothered me. And out of recent, some of my team members, we went to a drumming circle at Wolf Den in Hudson, New Hampshire. And at the drumming circle, this doctor, he calls himself a doctor, he's a psychic, paranormal reader, a few other things, Dr. Ross. We were doing, and before the energy circle, they wanted to do a protection. I said, no, I'm all set. So to avoid a major hassle, because it started with some of the regulars that go to this, I said, okay, I'll do it. So Kevin did the energy circle around me. Well, Kevin stopped, and he calls me after the drumming circle's done. Before you leave, I need to talk to you. Okay. You got a very strong protection around you. Yeah, I know I got my grandfather on one side of me and maybe my grandmother. He goes, get your grandfather, but it's not your grandmother. I said, no. What is it, big gift? Oh, it's someone dressed up in goth. A lady dressed in goth garb that's out to protect you at all costs. Oh. Okay, maybe that's why I can handle these cases. And I've never been threatened or anything, or felt threatened going up against demons and the more dangerous stuff. There's one other thing too with demonic hauntings. Can they hurt you?
Yes.
They can. But they can only hurt you if you let them. If you stand, they can hurt the people around you, but if you stand up to them, they run. They're like the bullies on the street. You stand up to a bully and they run. That's what demons do. But you got to stand up to them and you can't show them fear. And for years, that's what I've done. But we do put a protection of white light around us, or some of my team, a couple former team members would wear crosses because they're Catholic. Whatever you feel protected, whatever your beliefs are, because everybody's belief is different. No one belief in this system. And as a paranormal investigator, we cannot be prejudiced towards any religion, because I don't know who's going to call me with what background. Say I come to your house and you got a demonic haunting, and you got Native American blood. I hate to tell you, but the holy water is not going to work, because you got to believe in what you're using. Now, if I go to your house and you're Catholic, or of a Christian descent, and you believe with holy water, then holy water will work. It's your belief system that makes these go. We're just a drill that helps drill the screw into the wall, so you can put up the blue board. That's all we are. We're the tool used to help get rid of these things. But you, as an individual, have to realize and work with us to get rid of these things. Now, when we finally get rid of these things, if we do, my psychic was supposed to be here tonight, but she's going through some major stuff, so she couldn't make it. A week before Christmas last year, we got a call. Remember the first ice storm? Everybody remember that Monday ice storm? Stay off the roads. Not me and Caitlin and my psychic. We were up to Lake Center Harbor, Lake Winnipesaukee, to a restaurant. Angie went up there to shut down the portal, and it came back. This wasn't anything major, but they wanted it gone. It was a doorbell ringing spirit and a few other things. It was an old Underground Railroad carriage house, etc. It was a very icy ride up there. We went up there and we helped the client out. So I said, what happened after Angie left? How did this happen? Oh, we didn't want the bad spirit back. We wanted the doorbell ringer back, so we started calling him back.
Yep.
Oh, okay. So you called him back, and guess what came with it? And a few other things came with it, too. I had to bring up another team because it was a Monday. A lot of my team members were working, and some a week before Christmas couldn't go. So I had to bring in another team to help us out. He came up later in the day to help us out. But, if once the spirit's gone, please don't call it back. Because sometimes it's even harder to get rid of it. All right. Who's heard of poltergeist activity? Anyone witnessed poltergeist activity? All right. Well, so a poltergeist activity could cause computers and electronics to act wonky, crash or turn them off, brings thickness in the air, causes small arguments among people, creates audible knocks, footsteps, phenomena, small items disappear, reappearing, usually not very far from where the spot was taken. And spirits can push and shove a person. So you start getting that, and these spirits will all start off small. They want to be your friend at first. Just like any other stranger that's going to kidnap a child, they want to be the child's friend. That's what these demonic and human and not so nice poltergeist activity start. They want to be your friend. They want to gain your trust. So you can go to sleep at night feeling, hey, I got my own personal ghost here. He's going to watch the house for me. No, doesn't happen. So, how do we get to this point? How do these spirits come in? Well, you can invite them, and usually with a Ouija board or other ways of spirit devices. And, as the heated arguments get worse, more spirits will come in to play with you, and then things will slowly get worse. And once the invitation period is over, you'll have that house like we had up in Derry, New Hampshire, 1743. You get an infestation of spirits. And that is, when you invite your friends over for fun, the activity is mainly staying in your peripheral vision. You see black balls of light, energy, orbs. And I'll get into that in a bit, but orbs. Every once in a while, a spirit will sit in front of you. That's actually my friend Joe. He's blocked here at a private home, which you'll hear about later on. Then you get spirits like this that you see at Hilldale Cemetery. You've got the face. Where were those taken, Linda? Do you remember?
Yeah, you know where we are?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Oh, near the Diamond Stone?
Yeah.
Okay. This is down the bottom of Soldiers Hill when you go down to Hilldale Cemetery. Or you get mists. You can see mists in homes too. Like this. There was nobody there. These were clear nights. Or you can see a head coming out of the ground like you do over here. And you can look at these pictures as we go along. Or you've got this full partial body here that was picked up at Great Court State Park in Methuen. This is the head coming out of the ground, blown up. And this is at the Lizzie Borden house. That's my old team psychic who originally helped me form co-founding group. And she don't smoke it. You can see the light there. And this was taken in the cemetery in Haverhill. We were doing an energy circle, and up above the energy circle, no one was smoking, and we got this.
That's our logo.
That's our logo. But it's our print person couldn't do it. You can see it on Caitlin's shirt later on. It didn't come out well on those shirts. And these, they just couldn't do them on. Then we got oppression. That's when the spirit divides and conquers a house. We had a case like that in Gloucester. 2 ladies. Very nice ladies. Not Gloucester, Marblehead. Was it Gloucester or Marblehead? I forgot what town we were in. You remember? Was it Gloucester?
No,
I
it's
remember
Marblehead.
Marblehead. I remember the case. I don't always remember the town. They were killing each other. They were fighting every day. The spirit gained control of the house. It was a ship captain that did not like them living there. It was a ship captain who didn't like women. That was the issue. And it caused them major issues. And they let it go for so long before they called us in. By the time we got there,
It was almost too late.
it was too late to save them from going their separate ways. And once they left, the house calmed down. But we got there too late. You start getting that type of problem, you need to call somebody in immediately. Because there is a time when it does become too late. Then finally you get possession. That's when the spirit finally takes full charge of you. You might have seen that on your show, the movie The Conjuring, if you ever watched The Conjuring. That's when the spirit's inside of you, not channeled inside of you or let inside of you. It takes over your whole body, controls every motion of it. And by then, it's time to bring in either a demonologist or a priest or a shaman. I mean, I've worked on a couple of small cases where we've had to get rid of them, but they're not easy. Once that spirit takes full control of your body and your mind, there's not much left. So you never want it to go that far. Now, in the paranormal, not only do you have to know history, my notes are all over the place here, but you have to know a little bit about science. All right? So, geological factors. Underground water pressure. Spirits use that as energy. So if you got like that house in Derry, there's a pond out back. And I know the area where this house is. I hadn't had to research this because I had a family member live up the street there for all my life until she passed away at Great Aunt. There's a lot of underground springs in this area. We had another case where the railroad tracks in Leominster were right behind the house. Energy, spirits move through that. Earth tremors, the wind blowing, oh, I hear noise, I got an old home. I only hear it when the wind blows though. That's probably wind blowing through your windows. Especially if you got an old home. They weren't well insulated back then. Faulty wiring, here's the most dangerous one. Using a FLIR thermal imager, we get a house in Haverhill, condo. Lady was feeling things, seeing things, shadow figures. We'd gone there a few times. She later became a team member before they left the area, her and her boyfriend. So we took, not this FLIR, another FLIR, and we're going around. We got the electrical control panel. One of the fuses was over 100 degrees. That could cause a fire. They were poor and weren't well to do. So I told them to call the city electrical inspector, who I know, and don't tell me I had a paranormal demon there. What did they do? They called the inspector. Inspector goes, I don't see any. Well, I had a paranormal demon and he left the house. He didn't even help them out. Thank God where her ex worked at the time, a friend of hers, he knew an electrician, so he came in just to look it over. And they had to replace the switch. If they didn't replace the fuse switch, the house would have burned down. So sometimes it's wiring. Oh, and by the way, if you have a house that predates 1960s, you have that old wiring in your house. That's not ray shielded too well, so you might pick up a strong electromagnetic fields. We'll get to that in a few minutes. Traffic. House not properly insulated. Find that a lot of times. And my favorite is with the electrical. Who owns a house that predates the 1940s? Anybody? Yeah. Well, you guys had some work done in it.
Yeah.
If you had no work done in it, or you go rent the house out, you go look at it, look how they ground the old electrical wiring. You know how they grounded it? To the copper water pipes, which causes an electromagnetic field in your house to feed spirits like spinach and Popeye. So that's another electromagnetic fields, or EMF. We use meters like this. Meters like this. This is a digital one. Yeah, let's turn you on. All right. Or, in the old days, you used a compass. Remember, compasses read electromagnetic field. So if you put this down and it starts going, spinning wildly, and it's on a solid table, you know the magnetic fields are not well in here at all. So what is a safe magnetic field? 0.0 to 0.5. Anything over that? I didn't have one of these before. I actually had to go buy one of these. This is not mine. It's one of my team members, Linda, who's here. We're at a house, and I was using this meter with another team. Now, this meter can only go so high that you can see it falls off the chart, so I don't get the exact reading of how high the meter was. So, picked up a Mel meter. This will go till it's blue in the air. It's digital. In the master bedroom, we had 16, 17 points and higher.
Actually, it was up to 28
Up
point something.
28 point something
Yeah.
on that case. Then we went outside. The train station isn't too far from where we were. There's a building behind there that a team member who's not here tonight told me it looks like something Bulger would have used to handle his issues in. We're walking around the neighborhood and we're getting 44 to the high 90s in high electromagnetic field. This is just not a safe neighborhood to live in. Because what does electromagnetic field, high EMF cause? Well, it can cause itchy skin. I think I heard something or see something. But if you live with it long enough, it could cause cancer. So you don't want to be in the room. There are ways of diffusing it. You can get these little triangle things. There are, Lindsay, what are the names of those things? I always forget them.
Crystal pyramids?
Crystal pyramids. But they're so, the electric company uses them when they build those big poles in the ground to cut down the high electromagnetic fields that those poles give. And the wiring into this house from the outside into this apartment complex, I could stand on the garage and go touch the wiring to the main power line. That's how wonderful this place was. So they put, in order to fill a room, if this room was the house, we'll say, with that type of reading, I would need about a half dozen of those in here. Because you need that many of them,
You needed more.
if not more than that, to kill the field. Because that's how high this field was. As far as I know, she's leaving the house. And we're no longer involved in the case, but I'm told she's thinking of leaving. So, all right. What else? What else? Okay. General signs of a haunting. Unexplained sounds, opening and closing cabinet doors, lights and appliances turning on. A friend of mine who has his own team got this great shot. It's actually a public photo, so I can talk about it. Some of the stuff we can. It's been in his newspaper. He's written stories about it. So it's not at the Wyndham restaurant. He got a bolt of lightning that went from the coffee pot to the floor. So it's not my photograph. It belonged to Leo Moffett, but.
So did the boxes.
And then the boxes. Then he took a picture of some boxes that went across an archway of a doorway. They weren't even. There was no way these could have just been put there by human beings. So that's another one. Unexplained shadows, strange animal behavior, or you're feeling like you're being watched. So if you have all that stuff going on, you probably get something. Extreme, moving and levitating objects, including levitating humans. Physically being attacked. It's happened to a couple of us on this team before. In many different places, too. Writing and drawing on the walls and apparitions. So, do you have any questions? Any questions at all? All right, let me just go over.
I do.
You do.
I'm gonna poke the pig. Okay, so you've done several talks here.
Yes.
Have you or any of your team members noticed any spiritual activity here?
We don't investigate these buildings without the permission of the ownership, so that won't happen.
Awesome.
We just don't go into places. I'm not the Long Island medium. I'm not going to walk up to you and go, "Hi, so-and-so wants to say hi to you who died 20 years ago." That's not what we do. That's disrespecting public and private properties. You can't do that. A lot of people do that. But we can talk about a public property right now, Hilldale Cemetery. Built in 1859, 20.93 acre cemetery in the heart of Lawrence Havel. It made Bellevue Cemetery look clean. If you're from Lawrence and you all know about Bellevue, it made Bellevue look clean. We've reclaimed about 40% of the cemetery, and these are some of the pictures we've gotten in there through the many years of paranormal work being done in the cemetery. It's also been in Spooky, Creepy New England too, and I don't know the title of it, but I'm going to be interviewed for another book as a gentleman.
13 most haunted cemeteries.
13 Most Haunted Cemeteries, thank you.
You're welcome.
Written by a local author named Sam Baltrusis. He's going to be interviewing me about Hilldale, and he wants some of the pictures. I got more pictures in here from the Tenney Gatehouse you can look at. Now, when we go to Hilldale, and we have a big event coming up, October 29th, 7:30 at night, the gates will open. Around 8 o'clock we'll start. It's a Saturday night. Should be a fun night. We have a list of our upcoming events too, up there on the table, so please grab that on the way out. You never know what you're going to get with Hilldale. I mean, we've caught heads coming out of the ground, the lady in white. It's always a fun time. What?
And soldiers.
Soldiers, children, soldiers with one leg missing.
Yep.
Very sad over there, but this is some of the, another piece we used is this thermometer. It reads air temperature. So the height of it is if you're standing around the room and you got pretty much a 73 through the whole room, and then all of a sudden you're in the same location, it goes from 73 down to 40, and everything around is 73. Most likely you might have something there. No guarantees it's an apparition or a ghost. There are absolutely no guarantees. And sometimes I'll use a sound meter. I have an analog and a digital sound meter. We do use cameras of all different sorts. From, who remembers these? 35 millimeter camera, which I pick up better shots with 35 millimeter. You know why?
Slower shutter speed.
Slower shutter speed. Sometimes the way the light reflects off it. And even the cameras, you could go buy the $2,000. I got team members bugging me. We need new cameras. I'm not new forgetting.
No, we need new video.
New video cameras, a DVR system. I use VHS and the small 8s and those, and they pick up just as good, if not better, because again, the slower speed with the light. You get a digital camera like this, hey, it works great. I can snap a picture. Oh, there we go. I can snap a picture and look at it right now. Look, I can see a picture. Nothing there though. The 35 millimeter cameras, well then you get those you got to send out, get done. They take 7 to 10 days, sometimes longer. But more times than not, I've gotten a lot better pictures off of that than I did anywhere else. And before I wrap up, I'm going to invite my friend Willie up here from Spirit Chasers. Willie, come on up real quick. I'm going to wrap up. We're talking about using sage and some of the stuff, but I'm going to bring Willie up to talk. He's got a big event coming up. Willie is a paranormal investigator that works on historical places like we do. And they're from Spirit Chasers up in Hampton, New Hampshire. And he does a lot of work. And he actually put a documentary together. And it includes that photograph. Well, it doesn't include it, but that's what that photograph is taken. So Willie, give him a big hand.
He is very shy. You can hardly ever get him to talk. But like he said, I am Willie Castle from Spirit Chasers Paranormal out of Hampton, New Hampshire. And we don't do the paranormal investigations or the nasty stuff in the conduct. Anything like that comes across, we'll call Tom or somebody else and say, here, do this. But I do occasionally, Tom will call me and say, hey, I got an investigation, you want to come? Oh, yeah, sure, okay. But mostly we do, like you said, we specialize in historic locations. And one place we have been investigating for about the last 3 years is the James House Museum in Hampton, New Hampshire. And it is one of the oldest homes in the town of Hampton. Very historic place. And last summer, along with Beyond Reality Video Productions, we filmed a documentary which was finally finished this fall. We had the premiere in Hampton beginning of September. But anyway, we are going to be showing the documentary this Friday night at the Kit Research Institute Center for Consciousness Studies in Stratham, New Hampshire. That will be from 7 to 9 p.m. And then again in Haverhill, Friday, October 27th, at the HC Media Studio 101 at the brand new Harbor Place. And that is 6:30 showing, the doors open at 6 o'clock. And we hope people will come out and join us. And I have some flyers that will be over here on the table. And come on out and support the James House. So all donations do go to the James House for
It's a fantastic place.
restoration and upkeep of the building. Thank you. Thank you. your time.
No problem, thank you, Billy. All right, you heard me talk about some of this stuff, I just want to show it to you. Remember I said we use pendulums? I have a bunch of these, I mean, this is the one that, so pendulum basically is the hardest tool out of all these tools that we use, this is the hardest tool in the toolbox. And why is that? I mean, it should be pretty easy. You know, got a ball, a chain, should be pretty easy to hold, huh? Well, it takes a lot of science. Anyone ever tells you they've mastered one of these? And they come to your house? I'm going to tell you to do the same thing the one that the paranormal experts are. Close the door on them and send them home. Because no one can master these. You got to hold these real steady. Because even if I move my arm a little bit, look how much it wiggles. Or if my body shakes. I mean, even the tiniest shake will wiggle this. So if you're using this to make spirit communication, I always stop it and double check and triple check, because there's only one time it didn't happen that way, and that was at the Bellevue Cemetery at the Pemberton Millstone. Caitlin was over there, we were doing a session, broad daylight, so we had proper, to be there. Cemeteries are open dawn to dusk. After that, you should get permission if you're home watching this. Even Hilldale, I allow teams in there as long as I know you're in there. She had this going. That's how fast the pendulum was going. At the memorial for the Pemberton Mill, that's how much energy there was. I've never gotten a pendulum going like that. Usually, at most, you get this. That's normal if there's energy. This is off the charts.
Yeah, it killed my hand for the rest of the evening.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's one of the tools we use. Another tool we have used in the past, dowsing rods. Anyone know what these were historically used for?
Finding water.
Finding water. They made them out of wood. You don't even have to, or a tree branch. You don't even have to go buy them. You can make these at home with a simple coat hanger. Not the plastic ones, though. These are a little bit more fancy, so you end up holding them on an angle. And then you all always ask if something's there, and if they, usually for us, if it crosses, I just cross them just so everybody knows. If I cross them like this, I'm doing it myself, but if it crosses over, that usually means, you can get, at Hilldale, we've had them go from here to here, and back this way, even in private homes. We had some great activity at the James house when we did it over there. It was very nice. Another tool is the K2 meter. Oh, did you take the battery out of this? Oh, the battery died. Oh, it's on. Okay. Okay, there it is. So a K2 meter picks up the same thing as that digital meter does. Just by the number of lights. This is a newer version. The older version, when they came out with this, you had to stick a diamond in to hold it. And they came up with this great idea of a button. And then these are some of the recorders we use. Analog and digital. The mini ones. In fact, one of the best DVDs I ever got was on a cassette player, the bigger one. We're at the Jewish cemetery in Haverhill. I had gotten a call from the local police officer in the area down there that there were some issues going on, so I went down to look. And we were getting ready to leave, and I said, okay, we'll leave and have a good night, thank you, and I was being respectful like you're supposed to. That's the key thing, though. Always be respectful to the spirit, because you've got to respect them like you respect another fellow human being. So, I said thank you, and I went back and listened to the recorder. Said, get out. Class A EVP. Clear as day. We were leaving anyhow, yes.
What causes the spirit to stay attached to either a location or an object?
Well, not everybody, when they pass on, is ready to go to whatever your next belief is. And sometimes they weren't ready to die. It might have been a sudden heart attack. Even worse, someone gets gunned down, or a freak car accident. And, I've walked into Salvation Army stores and no one's sitting, no one's around, and you see the rocking chair going like this. I look at it and go, oh, look, someone's sitting there. There's no one sitting there though. Spirits do linger, especially if they don't want to be crossed over to whatever their belief system is of the next level. And that does happen. I mean, not every spirit wants to cross over. Some people want to stay here for whatever the reason is. Torment people, help their friends out. You never know.
It could also be a loved one that keeps them here too.
Yeah.
Like they can't let go of them, like they miss them that much, they won't let them go. And spirit actually ends up getting trapped here by the loved one.
You know, if the spirit is in a cemetery though, and the loved one is there.
Yes. Spirits are able to travel. They don't necessarily stay with something.
Nope. They can go anywhere they want, actually.
Stays on the edge.
How many live in the house? Just like a whole land.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost forgot too about the mallet I took out of a house when someone wanted me to get
Oh, the judge's mallet?
the judge's mallet. Yeah, I belonged to a gentleman's club in Peabody, and we went to this house in Leominster, and it was all over the map.
That's purple.
Pepper, yeah. So this is some of the tools we use for cleansing. This is a good bundle of sage. Got my feathers here. What's this? Oh, juniper. That's used for a little bit stronger. Holy water, because you never know what we're going to run into. But more sage. I have quite the collection of sage here.
Never know.
Yeah, you can never have enough. Lavender. So it smells nice, but it also does work. It does calm the spirit activity down. And this isn't a lot of stuff. I will be actually retooling up my mugwort. I haven't used this yet. But I figured with some of the stuff we've been doing, I've got to keep some of this around. I'm almost out of a lot of this stuff, so on Friday we'll be going down to Salem as a group, hanging out, having a good time, and I'm going to restock my supplies. So, and I use a shell, because when you're saging out somebody's house, the last thing you want is sage burning and ashes flying all over the place. So what you usually end up doing is you burn the sage over the seashell like this, so the seashell catches everything. So. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Is there any common theme for the spirits who seem to be the most persistent, like they just plain won't go? Is there any common thing that they're looking for? In other words, what do they expect of us, or is it a big range
Well,
of things?
I've done hundreds of cases on my own with my team through the years, and I've been on other teams with helping them with their cases. And there's I can go back on every file that I've ever done, and very seldom do you find a recurring theme. It could be held back for many reasons. Love, they don't want to leave. They're here. The other thing is the house we just worked on in the 1743 home. One of my team people picked up, and one of the consultants on the team picked up. The guy wanted to tear down part of the house. They said, don't do it. check the floorboard. We haven't gone back to check the floorboard yet, but there could be something in the wall.
Yeah, you picked up on something like in the walls too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's many reasons why spirits stay. I mean, I have never seen in science there's a pattern. In history, you can see a pattern of how generals did things through the years and how they learned from one another. In the paranormal, that pattern's like this. There is no pattern. It's all over the map. If I took all my case files and put them out on the floor here and tried to find a reoccurring theme, sometimes the only reoccurring theme that I do occasionally find is high EMF. That was one that would. But as far as dealing with, that's the science and the geographical end. And when you got a train of water, that spirit activity seems to be higher. But that's the only trend. But when you're dealing with the individual spirit itself, no, it's all over the map. Any other questions? No? All right, and I want to thank Joe, who's the president of the Friends of Lawrence Heritage. I want to thank Mike Lindley from Lawrence Heritage. I want to thank Mr. Ross, who's behind the camera tonight. And I want to thank Ali, who's also our group from Lawrence Heritage, Friends of Lawrence Heritage here tonight too. I want to thank you all for tuning in at home, and I'll see everybody in the paranormal. Good night, everybody.